Welcome to level 2. Now, to recap, we've all started on ground zero. We've all concluded that all things must have been created. If we passed ground zero, we passed level 1, and we're here at level 2, we've all agreed and we're starting on the same ground zero. Now, the nature of creation means that, well, since I'm a part of creation and you're a part of creation, if we're honest with ourselves, we want to know our own identity. But, of course, we can't discover it on our own power. So we require revelation. We require the Creator to reveal our own identity to us. And the flip side of that same coin is that we require the Creator to reveal His own identity to us. And so that takes us to this, level 2. We need a test. We need a litmus test, a revelation test, if you will. Something that can tell if we're dealing with the real deal or if we're dealing with some kind of charlatan. Okay? Because if somebody comes along and says, hey, I'm the Creator, well, we need a way to know, hey, are you really the Creator? Or are you just saying that? And so we need to formulate a test. We need to formulate something that we can apply to anyone in history, in the past. And if nobody in the past were to be able to satisfy this test, then we can still have the same test that we can hold on to for anyone in the future. Maybe someone comes along and they claim to be the Creator, and we can apply that test to them to decide if it's really them or not. So let's just start with the test, because level 3 is where we're actually going to apply it. Okay, so we're not going to talk about applying the test yet. We're just going to decide what would the test be. Like, what would we need in order to know that we are actually having a revelation from the Creator? Well, the first thing is that we need a kind of a category. We need to know how to apply the test, who to apply the test to, what to apply the test to. Would the Creator be a thing? I mean, would the Creator possibly be a tree or a rock or anything like that? Because then we would apply the test to the tree or to the rock or whatever. Well, let's take a minute to think about ourselves again, because we are people, we are humans, and we're talking about revelation, which is a form of communication, or communication is utilized to get revelation, whatever. So what we need, the category, is that this test needs to be applied to a person. It's got to be a person, because we communicate with people. We don't communicate with rocks and trees or animals. Granted, we can train animals, and there's a bit of a limited kind of communication perhaps with animals, but nowhere near the kind of thing we're talking about when we want to know our own identity. Like, we're not going to be able to communicate with an animal in any way to be able to learn our own identity. Okay? And so we really have to have a person in order to apply the test to. That's the first thing. It's got to be a person. The second thing is what the test would actually be. Now, would it be a questionnaire? Would it be a performance test? What would it be? And it's got to be a performance test, because talk is cheap. You know, we got to have something that's built on an action, a deed. And that deed has to be something that only the Creator could possibly do. You know, something that's not just miraculous, but something that shows this person has complete control of all the molecules, complete control of all the particles, complete control of being able to manipulate those particles. And what would they have to do, or what is something they could do that would show they have that kind of control? How about resurrection? Right? If you can come back from the dead, that would show that you got creative power. And if you got creative power, you must be the Creator. But hold on a second. I think that if the tests were just that limited, I think maybe some charlatans could sneak in there a little bit. So let's make it a little more strict. Okay? It's not, it can't be just plain old resurrection. It can't be that someone just keels over and dies, and then maybe a doctor comes along and checks the pulse and checks the breathing and says, you know what? This person's dead. They're died, everybody. Believe me, trust me. I've evaluated them. They're dead. And then sometime later, they stand up and walk again and say, hey, I'm back alive again. Resurrection, right? Not quite. Not so fast. Okay, because I don't want to have to rely on that doctor. Okay, if this person is going to die, it's got to be the kind of death that is obvious to anyone. Anyone with any kind of have a half thinking brain can just look at the person and tell, yeah, that person is dead, and there's no coming back from it. Like, they're so dead. It's not just that they've stopped breathing or they've lost their pulse. It's that their body has been broken in a particular kind of way. And I'm going to look for the breathing to be broken, and I'm going to look for the blood to be broken. Okay, because anything else, maybe there could be some kind of trick. But if you take away their breathing and if you take away their blood, there's no way. Okay, so if you put a hole through their heart and their lung, then yeah, boom, that's dead. And there's no coming back from that. You can't heal from that, okay? Nobody could perform any kind of magic trick where you literally do stab their heart and their lung and they somehow do something to like magically or use an illusion to appear to come back from the dead. Can't be done. You know, if they just fall over, they die, they use a doctor, there's some trickery that could be involved in that. But if they get something so completely impossible to recover from, and that's the kind of death we need to see. And that's the kind of death that we need to see overcome. So that's our litmus test. You know, we need to look into history, and we need to see, has anyone ever overcome death in this kind of way? You know, has anyone ever revealed themselves to be the creator by doing this specific thing that only the creator could possibly do? And in level 3, we're going to answer that question. We're going to open that up a little bit. And of course, level 2 and level 3, I think, are pretty short and sweet. I mean, we're going to get right to it, okay? But we want to cover these because remember, the Lord teaches us in scaffolding, okay? It is important, even if the lesson is simple, even if the lesson is easy to achieve, it is important to complete a level and say, you know what? I've achieved ground zero, for example, and there's no going back. There's no way anyone could ever convince me that the origin of all things is anything other than creation. I'm done. Level or ground zero solved. Then we move to level 1. So you know what? There's no way I could ever be deconvinced that I require revelation in order to really know myself. I understand this concept that since I am creation, there's a lot of implications there and a lot of unknown, a lot of mystery. I'm trapped in this physical realm, but that creator's outside of the physical realm. And that's the only way I can know my own identity. So, boom, level 1 solved. We also need to do that with something as simple as level 2 and as simple as level 3. We need to be able to say, you know what, there's no moving. There's no going back. There's no going down. Back to level 1. Once I've achieved level 2, locked in. Okay, now we go to level 3, and when we achieve level 3, we can be locked in too. But level 2 here, we just need to know what is the thing, what is the way that I can have certainty, that I can know if the creator has ever revealed himself to me. So I need that test. All right, so if you can agree that, yeah, this is the test. Resurrection, not just any kind of old kind of resurrection. It's got to be a public death that anyone can look at, all the public, all the populace could look at and know that this person is absolutely dead and there's no way they could ever just recover from it. But then they do. Okay, so that would be an act that only the creator could possibly do. And if that person does recover from that kind of a death, they must be the creator. And from there, we can go into level 3 and get the identity of that creator if that has ever happened in the past. And if that never did happen in the past, we can wait and we can say, look, if it's never happened in the past, this is still the test. We can wait for someone to come along in the future who does this. And if anyone ever does this, then we can know that that person is the creator. Okay, but since we're here in 2026, we're just going to start with the past. Because a lot of people have come along already, said that they are the creator, that they're God. And so we can use this test against their claims. Okay. So if you can agree with that this is the test, then you've conquered level 2 and ready to move on to level 3.